Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to do what we do every other Saturday, and we're going to check out an album. And this one I'm pretty stoked for. We have the band The Ocean, which is a post-metal band, I think, or primarily post-metal that kind of dips around into other ideas. And we're going to be checking out an album called Pelagial, which a few people have actually requested now that we've started doing album requests, or album reactions, analyses, whatever you want to call these. I've seen in the comments a few people wanted this one, so I think there's going to be quite a few people excited. I say let's dive into it. We have 50, 60 minutes, I think, of music, something like that. And just like with last time's Agalok, I will be pausing it in between songs when I find a break. It looks like some of these songs are broken up into multiple parts. So I'm kind of hoping there's going to be a hard stop between these multi-part songs, and we'll have a chance to discuss what we listen to. Otherwise, we'll listen to it all the way through, and I'll try to put my thoughts together on an hour of music. Let's dive into this. We'll start off with the epilogue, which is called Epipelagic, which is just, that's cool. Alright, let's go. Beautiful strings, harps, piano, but then there's the sound of running water in the background, like having an aquarium nearby. Just that white noise of running water. Maybe like a creek, not necessarily a creek, I think would be a better description. That sound of running water is still there, just it's quieter now. Still have a lot of really beautiful melody lines. Just really gorgeous, bright vibe. Really light drum work as well. It kind of makes me feel like I'm at the beach, right? Just having the waves crash up, hearing that white noise in the background with these really chill vibes. Yeah. Gorgeous. Come and bring full force on this while still retaining the same idea. Yeah, so that was an interesting chordal rundown. We went through quite a few chords real rapid fire. Oh. The little runs on both the bass and the guitar and how they play around with what the vocals are doing. And those rim hits, I think, on the snare. Just really adding a nice texture. Okay. Playing around with some dissonance here as well. Okay. Got a nice little like alt rock sound to it. Is there still water samples being utilized here? What band does this section remind me of? Oh, I don't know the name of the band, but I know what song they sing now. Jeez. Oh, starting off a lot harder than when we were last time. I still love that bass, man. Tons of presence, and it's given a lot of interesting lines. Ooh, bringing back some of these, a lot of the ideas from the intro track. Alright. It's not just me. It sounds like we're underwater, right? Okay, so there's actually some really cool ideas going on here that give it being pulled under vibe. Not descending, maybe. A descending vibe. Really interesting, because I get a little bit of a Seven Dust vibe there. Ooh, nope. Okay. So what is that, like 13/8? Yeah, so this is alternating between 3 bars of 6/8 and a bar of 8/8. So they're definitely beginning to play around a lot with time. That is such a weird toss-up there at the end of the phrase. None of the instruments are really working together to create a vibe there. I'm loving this whole album so far. So good. bringing the bass into this idea. Oh man, this drumming. I cannot get over the drumming. Got kind of a Tool vibe right there. Are there like little bubble sounds? Is everything going to be water related? I thought the ocean was just a band thing. Is this in all their music? Really getting a bit heavier here. Starting to move into some metal territory here, I think. Yeah, we got some blast beats. That was a very cool guitar tone, whatever that was. Got some layering up on the harshes that I don't think we've heard thus far. Cymbals are really laying down the meter here while everything else is going crazy. A little bit of time to build up the energy here. Getting some Pantera idea. This album's all over the place. A lot of these rhythmic ideas popping up more and more. We really didn't see much like this at the beginning. Ooh. isolated guitar solo, which is a new thing. Playing around. Yes! Playing around with the Phrygian mode while also incorporating harmonies of fourths in the harmonized guitar part. I'm gonna pause it after this one. I don't care if it continues or not. All right. Well, I kind of feel that as a hard stopping point with an introduction into this next section. This album is moving fast. We're moving into track 6 of 11. One of those tracks is only 8 minutes long. However, there's also 2 9 minutes. Actually, yeah, there's 2 9-minute tracks. So, I mean, that kind of balances it out. But, I mean, this album's going so fast for me. And I'm enjoying it. I really am. There's a lot of cool stuff going on in here. I do want to take a moment and I'm going to look up these terms, because there seems to be a lot of water-based things going on, and I always kind of thought the ocean was that's the name of the band, right? We're the ocean. I mean, I don't expect them to write music about the ocean exclusively, no different than I would expect Disturbed to write music that's disturbing, or My Chemical Romance to write about uh, toxic relationships all the time. You know, but I never thought I would hear what I'm kind of guessing here, is an album about water. I don't know if it's necessarily about an ocean. I'm gonna dig into these song titles real quick though, because I am quite curious about this. So epipelagic is the part of the ocean which light penetrates for photosynthesis. I think it's also really cool that it that has epi in it. I mean, I guess that would make sense because that would be the top of the water, no? But it's also the beginning of the album. It's the epilogue. So what is mesopelagic, which something tells me is also going to be a water term? Ocean depths from 600 to 3,000 feet. No. What's this next one? There is no way this is what they're doing. If this one has to do with depth of water, or 3,000 to 13. Oh my! And then we go to yep, Abyssopelagic. And then Hadopelagic. Is that the next one? Yep. So what is Demersal and Benthic? Demersal. Oh, the part of the water that is near the seabed. Just above the benthic zone. Oh my god, they did it. So, the title of the song is The Layers of an Ocean. There is no way that this is real life. So, I have some ideas. I have some ideas. We're gonna wait to see if any of them come to fruition. I'm gonna lay down some of my theories right here, though, before we move into talking about these opening three tracks. First of all, we have the water sounds, right? It started out with like this white noise of. It almost sounded like water moving. To me, it sounded like a creek, possibly. And as we got to the second half of the song, maybe it was the first song with lyrics, the Mesopelagic. Um, but it kind of had this chill vibe to it, and the water moved away from kind of being this moving water, like a creek, to more of just still water, kind of having these momentary movements or crashes of like small waves, more of that calm water sounds. But when we got into Bathyalpelagic, tracks 3 through 5, the few times that I thought I might have heard water sounds, they were just sort of bubbles, like being submerged underwater, and hearing just the just that sound of being underwater, that muffled element to it. And some bubbles here and there. But honestly, these I think it was tracks 3 and 5 had no quiet sections to them. Track 4 had a small moment where I thought I might have heard something, and it's kept my ear like I am waiting for quiet sections to see if I can continue to hear these water sounds. And now that I know, or now that I have an idea of what the theme of this album might be, I'm definitely going to be on the lookout for these moments when I can kind of peer past the sound of the music and listen for these background water sounds. Um, what does that mean? What did I write? Oh, so yeah. Another thing is this idea of descent. It was in the first Bathypelagic song that I mentioned that there is these sounds, or maybe it was the second. They were utilizing sounds to create this idea of being pulled down, right? We had a lot of guitar slides down. We had the toms running from highest note to lowest note. There's a lot of these ideas of taking something that's higher pitched and bringing it down. As well as there was something going on in the atmosphere. I can't remember what it was, unfortunately, um, that really made me notice this downward feeling. So that lines up with the layers of the layers of the title. And my other idea is that we are going to. It's not just about using the vocabulary of water layers. We're actually exploring the ideas of water layers. And musically, we're going to continue to hear ideas of moving down between these elements. Um, Ooh. So I didn't have a third theory, but saying that I do now because I've been taking down notes about some of the stuff I've been listening to because unlike with a song reaction, there's a lot of music here I gotta remember. And I'm trying my best to not just give a surface read of it like I did with the Between the Buried and Me colors uh, reaction analysis because I want it to be more in depth, right? There's a lot of cool stuff going on in these albums, and I want to make as many connections between the songs as I can. And I think I did a pretty good job with Agalok, utilizing this method, and I didn't hear any complaints, so I'm going to continue utilizing my note taking method. Um, but I've been notating all of the different genre shifts because it's something we also saw in Agalok, and I didn't really make any connection as to like a thematic reason for it with that album, and I wasn't beginning to make a connection here either. But now that I talked about the song feeling like it's dragging you down, like you're exploring this depth of an ocean, I'm noticing that the music especially like I said, coming into this track, Bathypelagic 3. We were entering this metal realm, and I said I don't think we've really hit anything as heavy as this so far. And thinking about all this, it's true. We went from a piano and harp to like these chill beach vibes to some alt rock, and then some hard rock, and then we had like a new metal element with like some prog metal kind of stuff going on in there. I mentioned specifically I mentioned Seven Dust and Tool vibes, and I do wonder if we're not going to continue to get heavier and heavier until we really hit that post rock or post metal kind of thing that I associate with the ocean, which is these long sections of exploring a specific sound, right? Really digging into the weight of post metal, and probably even mixing in a little black metal just to get that constant attack, to include the what is it, that weight and pressure that we would feel if we were on the ocean floor. So yeah, those are my three theories I got right now, is that we're descending and we're going to continue to hear these water sounds. That we're going to continue to hear some descending elements to feel like we are moving down through the water, and that the music is going to continuously get heavier. And I'm still kind of blown away that I mean, like I said, we're as far as tracks go, we're at the halfway point, right? Like I said, I do think this last half of the album is going to be a bit longer because we do have those 2 9-minute songs. But the album's half over, give or take, and I think it's phenomenal that they've already kind of dictated this idea. Usually, I won't understand what an album's doing until the latter half of an album, especially, once it finishes. I'm like, oh, the last album ties everything together thematically, lyrically, musically. I'm like, oh, okay, I get it all now. It's starting to make sense. But here they came out the gates 3 songs in, technically, if you're going to count tracks 3, 4, and 5 as different movements of a single track. We're 3 tracks in, and I've got a pretty good understanding of this. Some things I want to point out real quick before we move on is the drumming and the guitar work and the vocals and the bass. I mean, I could have just started with everybody. It's just phenomenal, right? The drumming is all over the place. It's wild. It can be restrained when it needs to be, like when they're going for more of a hard rock vibe. They had a simple alternating bass drum idea in 4/4 with cymbals on every beat. Very standard hard rock sound that they utilized in one section, and then like the next song they brought in a part that had polyrhythmic ideas where none of them were referencing the time signature, and the time signature itself was jumping all over the place. We were like, one section I mentioned was like 6868 6888, and then another section I thought was maybe 13/8, but I couldn't really nail down the exact time signature on it. And the drums are like perfectly sitting within these wild time signature shifts, but still not. Well, they're groovy, but they're not sitting within the time signature itself. They're creating almost a polymetric concept going on, and yeah, super tight playing as far as rhythmic timing goes, and just phenomenal mind for kind of like embellishing rhythmic ideas. It isn't so much playing the drums to keep a rhythm, it's playing the drums as another melodic instrument. And it's just really cool to hear how the drummer does that without giving up the rhythmic feeling as well. Not to mention that we started with these really chill drum patterns that I mentioned were just very calm, right? Not a lot of force. I've talked a couple of times in the past. Rock drumming tends to be these really big arm movements to get these heavy strikes, these large attacks. And this was more of just wrist movement, just like right? Just real chill vibes. And then went from that to blast beats in like 20 minutes. So, yeah, just a ton of range there. The guitars are playing beautiful. I mean, just the guitars are playing beautiful melodies, right? Beautiful counterpoint, harmonization. They're not sticking around to any specific group of chords. There's a lot of chordal movement in here. We go through a few different modes, and there's always like some extra spice being added. I'm not sure exactly what chords they're using, but I can tell we got some spicy ones going on. Um, every once in a while we'll have a very interesting resolution or an extremely unstable leading chord, or just a brand new chord. I don't know how it fits in, but we were in one chord progression and we shifted out the first chord for this one that just feels very odd, being that we know what should be there, but it fits. And I love that chordal playfulness, right? Really playing around with the underlying emotion of each of these sections. And then, like I said, just strong counterpoint, strong melody. But I mean, that's also an overall thing. When we look at the piano and the harp thing, when we look at the vocal lines in track 2, there's so many good sections of melody, and I think it's interesting because it almost sounds to me like. Here's the weird thing: is that to me, Ocean is a post metal band, in that they do texture and atmosphere very well, and they do subtlety very well. And this is going against all of that. This is the least subtle thing I've listened to from them, I think. There's wild time signature changes. There's wild chordal progressions. There's tons of 2 and 3 part melodies going on. This is not subtle. This is showy, right? This is real high class musicianship and composition technique to showcase said musicianship. This is not subtle at all. This is saying, hey, we got chops. Let us show you. And it's just not what I associate with them. And it kind of makes me wonder how the writing process came about, and also where this fits into the other stuff I've heard. Is this a more experimental project for them? Have they done that more subtle post metal thing, and then they're like, hey, we should change it up, and then they do this, and they're like, we got nothing else to prove, let's go back to that post metal. That kind of idea, where it's the oddball album in their discography. So I'm kind of curious about that, because there's, like I said, the Ocean has always been a band that's intrigued me. I always look forward to Ocean reactions, just because I don't think I've ever been disappointed with a song by them. There's definitely a couple of tracks where I didn't have the ears up to snuff to fully appreciate what they were doing, but I've always walked away from the Ocean song pleased with what I heard. But none of it's really caught me casually, where I've decided, I enjoyed that. I want to go listen to it casually without digging into it, because I think that there's some stuff there I would enjoy without having to be fully engaged. This album does that, though. I don't know if the entire album will do that. We'll see what the second half does, and if they continue this idea of getting heavier and heavier, we'll see if I enjoy that stuff. But I was going to say the surface stuff. These opening tracks that are closer to the surface of the water, I'm digging what they're doing so far. The first 3 tracks here, I think, would not have had a problem being played on the radio. Well, I mean, the first one's an epilogue. No, epilogue means the end. Why do I keep... Yeah, that doesn't work at all. And the sad thing is, it's been like 20 minutes since I stated that, and I'm sure people have already written in the comments, bro, epilogue's the end, it's not the beginning. And like, I don't blame you, man. It's a 2-hour video, probably. We're at 40 minutes now, we're not even halfway through. I don't blame anybody for typing comments as they watch it, but I have corrected myself here. It took me a bit, but the epilogue's at the end, right? So it's interesting that it also means the top of the water, but it means the end of a book or story or narrative. Um, Prologue would be the beginning. So, yeah, that makes me look dumb. Past Bryan definitely looks like an idiot, and like I said, I'm sure he's been called out already. But yeah, Epipelagic is an intro track, so that wouldn't be on the radio. But tracks 2 and 3 I could definitely have seen on the radio. 4 I think would have been pushing it a little bit, and 5 definitely gets a bit too heavy metal for rock radio stations, but I could see it on Liquid Metal on Sirius XM or any other metal stations. My local rock station has a metal segment on Saturdays at midnight, so I could have seen that there. But like I said, a lot a lot of it feels nostalgic for me. Very 2000s hard rock, alt rock, radio stuff, and even this heavier stuff kind of gives me like a man, what's that band? Why do I always forget their name? Tesseract. Kind of gives me like a Tesseract or a Periphery vibe. Especially since we've moved away from the more melodic elements. And like I mentioned, there are some spaces where we had both guitars and the bass, or both guitars and vocals, or like vocals, guitar, and piano, laying down these just multifaceted melody lines. And we've shifted away from that pretty heavily in the last track or two, beginning to focus on more textural and rhythmic elements. We've moved to these odd time signatures. We've moved to the more of a rhythmic drumming than a technical one. And it's just, I don't know. I guess we got to see where this is going. Let's move on. Let's get to the next layer. Abyssopelagic. Let's bring this guy. Oh, I didn't dig into the lyrics. All right. All right. Let's dig into this real quick. Starting with Mesopelagic, which is track 2. Light is fading, everything dissolves, and blue, we become one with what surrounds, crawl back into the womb. Okay, so definitely some water ideas here. It's getting colder, no comfort in this place, and there's only one direction we can go. Down. From this point on, we let ourselves sink until the bottom, sinking towards the unknown inside of ourselves. Okay, not what I was expecting. That's getting a little bit less literal. It's getting dark. I'm trying to follow. There's not a reason. I recognize in your dissection of me. There's not much I recognize in your dissection of me. Okay. Yeah, definitely getting a bit metaphorical here. Coming close to a familiar place. Fears we need to face. Break out of cycles, rebuild from scratch. Eyes in the twilight stare at us. We're going down, but we're not alone. This is a place for everything. Okay, so my big takeaway here is that we are definitely utilizing the imagery of descending through water, but we're talking about something metaphorically through this idea. And it seems to be a lot of reflective elements, which water's a reflective surface, right? So some of the metaphor is actually lining up in an interesting way. I'm going to dive into this next track. So this is the beginning of Bathyalpelagic. So this is the second tier that we're at, or I guess technically the third, right? Because Epipelagial is the first, even though it's technically the surface. All right, so we've hit the next level. It says there's movement in these depths, and there's a place for everything. We're continuing this idea, right? This is a place for everything. Try to make sense of what we've been through. I don't believe in nothing, but I believe in you. I wonder if that's supposed to be taken as a double negative or if it's supposed to be taken in more colloquial ways. I think it's more colloquial. To mean I don't believe in anything, but I believe in you. That would render the but more relative. That's not the word I want. We don't need a relative but anyways. I've chosen to embrace the things I can't change, but I'm not sure if this helps to relieve you from bitterness. So there's definitely, was there a lot of you in the last time was all about me, right? Oh, but there was your dissection of me. So there's two entities here. I wish I could recall everything you said. Digging in the past, a deep hole. Again, I've chosen to embrace the things I can't change. How much control do we have over what we wish for? So a question of one's ability to achieve their goals. While also dealing, I mean, it also says to embrace things that can't change. If you feel like you can't achieve your goals, should you try to force them? Moving on. And here we see the allusion to the water again. It says pressure is increasing with every meter that we sink, but I won't let it get inside of me. I won't let the pressure get inside. I wanted to shape and change them, but it's they who have changed me. So this, I wonder if this is different than the you, right? Because we had a you and a me, now we have a they. They're as elusive as air. As soon as we name them, they're gone. Their meaning disappears. Again, stating how much control do we have over what we wish. Oh, that is that the same thing you said last time? How much control do we have over what we wish for? Yeah, that's not a question of our ability to achieve our goals. It's a question on what our goals are. Do we wish for things because we're conditioned to, or do we wish for things because that's what we want? That's kind of what I'm getting from that line, but it's repeated again. And then it says how many decisions we take are rational, how much is intentional. See, and this is putting me into a mental state here, right? Really digging into the identity of oneself and how we craft our identities, and questioning if we are who we are. You know, are we somebody who is unique, or are we somebody that's just following the effects of our environment? Right? Have we been conditioned to want things because we see other people having them, because we see them in commercials? You know, do we wish for fame and fortune and newest tech gadgets, or what have you, because that's what society says we should wish for, or do we really want all of that? How many decisions do we take that are rational, and how many decisions do we make that is intentional? Interesting. We got one more set of lyrics to go through. So far, I'm kind of getting this diving into the mind through the metaphor of diving into the ocean, but I'm still a bit lost on who some of these characters are. This final bit of Bathyalpelagic, we sink through boundless vasts of blue. When we come home at last, you'll see yourself how far down into the black these rays can reach. So the rays would be the sun rays. Would that not be home though? Home is the darkness in this metaphor. So the light would be the opposite of home, where we're not comfortable. And if we take that into the metaphor of the mind, assuming we're diving into the mind would be darker. So coming out of the mind, being present in reality, would be where we're uncomfortable. It would be the most alien, the least home-like. With your nature, with your being, of which you know nothing, it's there inside of you, controlling you till the day you die. How far down into the black can sunlight reach? Low light, our eyes open wide. There's something underneath. Repeats the idea about being controlled from the inside. So you brace yourself. Dread has made you come to your senses. You set everything in motion. Disequilibrated. Why can't I read this word? Disequilibrated. Okay. Whatever word this is, it is the opposite of an equilibrium. I just can't read the stupid word. So it says a stable state that lacks equilibrium. This is where it all began. Now face the reaction. Pain has made you come to your senses. Your life is easy, stripped of all responsibility. That's my reward for you. Freud? Right? Not necessarily all of his teachings, because honestly, I kind of hope nobody makes music about some of the stuff that he said. But talking about something inside your mind, I really hope I'm right on this metaphor, because if not, I'm diving in the wrong direction. um, and I'll be approaching this album in the wrong direction. I'll have my mind blown when some of you guys tell me like, "No, you were wrong all along." Um, Something inside your mind that you have to dive deep to find that controls you. It might render your decisions irrational, and its reward is to be stripped of responsibility. Responsibility tends to be assigned by societal expectations to go against the society. All of this works so well with talking about the id, which is the part of you that is. It's been a long time since I've taken Psych 101. It's like it's the part of you that's your baser instincts, right? So I don't know a better way to describe it than that. It's like when you see something and you have that gut reaction of wanting to do something with it, and then you're like, no, I can't do that. There's repercussions if I did that, or oh, what would be a good one is when you meet someone who's real rude, and you might want to inflict some pain on them, and that's your id saying, hey, you should just punch that guy in the face. But then your super ego comes in and puts that in check and says, yo, we got repercussions, we got laws against that. You can't just go about punching people you don't like. And your ego is yourself. It's who you present to the world. It's the balance of your id and your super ego. If I'm remembering that correctly, I think that might be a little bit simplistic, so it might actually have some inaccuracies in it, but I think it hits on the mark. So yeah, this thing that would ask you to make irrational decisions, that would make your life easier by stripping away responsibilities, something that's deep inside your mind. Yeah, I can see that relating to the id, but I mean, I think I'm also stretching it because I'm looking at like 3 or 4 lines here. um, all right, I think we're just gonna dive back into the music here. So now I have another theory. Descending of water, hearing water sounds, heavier music as we go, and Freud, which is not something I thought I'd say at the beginning of this video. Um, Although, it also talks about, it constantly talks about something that we wish for, right? And it confused me the first time because I thought it meant something that it didn't, or I read it in a way that I don't think was accurate. Um, wonder if that's going to pop up a lot because, it's what do you wish for? Do we have control over what we wish for? What was another line about this? Can't see it. We got to move on. And then it also presents the idea of a reward, right? The id, in my assumption, the id strips you of responsibility, and that's your reward. It's not something that it gives to you. It's not something that it would, ascribe. It is a reward. It's more like a gift for doing something else rather than something that the id would just bestow upon. So the specific use of the word reward with so many times of asking for wishes. I'm going to have to keep that in my mind as well. Might just be some patterns I'm seeing that lead nowhere, but it's standing out to me. All right. Where are we going? Oh, yeah. I'm going to back this up a few seconds, and we're going to hear the end of this song, that harsh stop, and then the intro into the next song, Abyssopelagic. And we'll listen to both movements, and then I'll pause it and we'll talk about that. I'll do the same thing with Hadopelagic. Listen to both movements, and then I'll pause it, and then we'll finish off Demersal and Benthic together, unless there's a hard stop between them. So every two songs now, or every two tracks, I'm going to pause it so we can check out what's going on. All right, let's dive back into this and back this up a little bit. I don't know where it was. Oh, pretty perfect, actually. So does anybody know what the sound is? I mean, this is the guitars coming in, but that first one that these guitars are emulating. Okay, so not heavier. Might be wrong about that one. In fact, this is bringing back the chill vibes from Mesopelagic. Love that bass presence in that line too. Spicy chords. Got some tremolo picking though. Yeah, that slide into this section, not a super smooth transition, but better than just running straight into it. Those strings on the outside are gorgeous. It's It's interesting too, oftentimes when the vocals are harmonizing, we'll go to center and a left, which feels very uneven. Okay. More water sounds though. Now this one's called Signals of Anxiety. I'm expecting a little bit more chaos in this one. We got an acoustic too. Is this the first time the acoustic guitar has been used? There's still the water sounds though. Dude, that is so cool. If someone knows if they've used the water sounds for every moment of this album, I'd love to know. Because even if they can't always be heard with the music going, I still think that would be a really cool idea to implement. Oh, I forgot to bring this back up. When did this album come out? 2013. It feels a lot newer than that. A lot of really great complexity coming through this simplicity. Just a few ideas coming from a few instruments, and just together it sounds phenomenal. So in this specific moment, the harmonized vocals only being left pan doesn't sound too out of place because the right side has a lead guitar doing a melody, the left side did not. So the guitar and the vocals actually balance each other out there. So yeah, we have finishing out that there we have like some radar sounds with bubbles, and it's becoming even more and more difficult to hear the water noises, the atmospheric sounds, the deeper we go. So one thing I want to talk about is tempo. I'm not sure if this is true. I had originally made the idea that the music was going to get heavier, but I wonder if the music isn't getting slower instead. Um, because this was interesting. You know, for a song called Abyssopelagic, where movement 2 is called Signals of Anxiety, I did not feel anything abyss-like or anxious in either of these tracks, Boundless Vasts or Signals of Anxiety. It, to me, this feels more like it belongs closer to the surface if they're working within this thematic element of having the music relate to the level of depth that they are in the ocean. Now, unfortunately, because I feel that way, I'm kind of tossing that theory out the window. I'm going to keep in the back of my mind for these last three layers, but we'll see right now. Right now I'm just kind of like, maybe I was wrong with that one, which is fine. You know, I came in with four theories. I don't expect all of them to be right. Unfortunately, though, I thought the first one to be chucking out the window is the Freud one, but I guess we'll see what happens when we pull some lyrics up in a little bit. I really dig this though, right? Both of these tracks I think have a beauty to them that showcases, if we're sticking to the literal meaning, that even when you get down to these depths of the ocean where sunlight doesn't quite shine, and honestly, as we've come to see more and more as we have equipment to photograph and videotape the environments down here, there are some really frightening creatures down here. There's still a lot of beauty in it, if nothing else than for the beauty of the abyss. I don't know specific. Well, I guess I can look this up because I still have this page open here. So in the Abyssopelagic area, this is 4,000 meters or 13,000 feet down to right above the ocean floor. Oh, no. Oh, yeah, that's what it says. From that range down to above the ocean floor. Oh, it's cool. It's derived from the Greek word bottomless, which is probably why abyss is sitting in there. Um, Very few creatures live in the cold temperatures, high pressures, and complete darkness. Yeah, complete darkness. So yeah, I was right there. There's some squid, some echidnoderms. Do I want to see a picture of that? Oh, starfish. And I guess there's a lot of stuff in this family. Swimming cucumbers? That sounds interesting. And the sea pig. I gotta see a picture of this. Oh, it doesn't look like a pig. It looks more like a tick. I wonder how big it is. 15 centimeters long. Many living at this depth are transparent and eyeless because of the lack of light in the zone. Very interesting. So here's a cool little picture here. I don't know how well it's going to... Oh, it's probably not going to show up at all because it's tall. Can we zoom in? That works. So we started at the Epipelagic. We moved to the Mesopelagic. which looks like just, more fish. We just got out of the Bathypelagic, which is sharks and squids and some octopus. Um, oh, actually, no, we just came out of Abyssopelagic, which is this area. Oh, there's some hydrothermal vents down here. Deep sea octopi, the anglerfish. Yeah, that's pretty cool. We're going to be moving into Hadopelagic. So that's kind of a really cool picture there, I guess. Um, so yeah, anyways, I was saying though, is that there might be, someone could perceive a lot of beauty in this abyss-like area. No light, complete darkness, um, and just kind of being in that nothingness. So maybe it's not so much that the music is relating to the water pressure of each of these layers, but it is more relating to the feeling of these layers. Like with the Bathypelagic, there's still elements in there, especially closer to the top, assuming that the three movements of Bathypelagic relate to the top third, the middle third, and then the bottom third of the layer. We would be moving away from the light and the brightness and closer into more of the darkness and black area, which would explain the transition from hard rock or alt rock into more metal elements in that area, whereas Abyssopelagic is pretty much just all black, and they really went for more of this calming, soothing, um, beauty kind of element for being stuck in said abyss. Which would be an interesting way to go about it. I think my idea of weight, water pressure, would be a pretty cool way about it too. But I do like if that's where they're going with this one, and they're just sort of analyzing the vibe they think they would feel, or maybe they want an expedition. I don't know. For all I know, with this band, they actually went and explored this. They went and took some tours or whatever. I don't know if humans can survive that far down yet if we have the technology for it, but I could see them doing some deep sea exploration to get in the mood, to get inspiration for the album. That is not something I would put past any band. Definitely not the ocean, just because they seem to be very thorough, right? With their words, with their naming, with their feelings, with their sounds. I mean, the fact that most of their albums are based on uh, prehistoric time periods, I think, if I'm correct on that. They just put a lot of thought and attention to detail into their stuff, and they seem like a group that, if they were going to write music about the different layers of the ocean, they would go explore said layers to get the right feeling for it. Um, yeah, so I'm interested moving into Hadopelagic and these last two surface level ones, where they're gonna go atmospheric wise. I think that'll be interesting to see what that happens. But anyways, like I said, also though, it's tempo. I feel like tempo is constantly slowing down. This song actually, while it was uplifting, I think, and really dealt with beautiful elements in the melody, the opening minute or so of it, of the first movement, had a doom vibe to it. Um, we had these really heavy introductory notes that were going on quarter beats, or they were hitting on the beat in 4/4. They were quarter notes, and it was just like doom, doom, doom. And I mean, even the word I use for that is doom, right? So, um, yeah, it's that's just kind of the vibe I'm getting with that. And I guess we're gonna see where that goes, because it wasn't like a doom metal section. I don't feel like it was doom metal. People who are more familiar with the genres, go ahead and let me know if that was doom metal in some aspect. But to me, it felt like it started as it and then went into a completely different direction, but kept that tempo. And I wonder if I go back and listen to the other tracks beforehand, if I can feel a slowing down of the tempo. Let's dive into some lyrics here and see what's going on. I'm really interested to see what kind of topics we move into. Oh, so part one is real simple. It's a single stanza. We sink through boundless vasts of blue. When we come home, we'll see how silent it is. I think it's interesting that he continues to refer to home as the ocean, if not the bottom of the ocean. But I also wonder if it's possible that this is the mind, and home is the center of the mind, rather than what we portray on the surface of our body, what we project to society. This must be the most forlorn place in the world. You'll see for yourself. What about us? Do you feel anything? That last line is just real cryptic. Okay, so not too many more words in part two. Last night I had a dream and I saw her in a distance. She walked towards the sea. Interesting. Very interesting, because we've been moving into the water or into the brain, if you want to take this literally, or my hypothesis of the metaphor, and we're shifting this to more of a colloquial, hey, I had a dream last night kind of vibe. It's really interesting to be exploring these depths and then just be like, oh, by the way, I had a dream. It says, she was standing close to the shore and watched the waves erode, and she said, you'll understand later. Then she cast a stone into the foam. When something occurred to her, something broke in her. Then she disappeared, but things are no longer what they seem. I can't say if it was real. Things are getting real weird. Alright, we're going to move on. I literally got nothing else for this, and I can't say that I know where they're going with this new direction. Other than the fact that Freud had a lot of theories on dreams. I don't know. Let's move on. This is Doom, though. There's a dripping of water, like we're inside of an underwater cave or something. A little pocket of air we found. I think that shoots most of my theories out now. As usual, loving that bass line. Every time the bass comes up, it's just doing phenomenal things. also very Tool sounds. Ooh, got a bit of a nu metal sound. Again, though, it's more of an emphasis on rhythmic and textural ideas than melodic ones. Very interesting electronic stuff going over there on the right side. Oh man. This drumming's real interesting though. We got this cool polyrhythmic idea going on. When you look at what the snare is accenting versus what he's doing on the hi-hat. Beautiful little ghost notes here. And as soon as I say there's no melody, this whole song so far has been in 3 as well, which is new. I don't think any other track's been in 3 yet, which separates it quite a bit. Dude, the polyrhythms going on here are sick. We got this backbeat 2 and 4 emphasis going on, which really kicks the energy up. with this weight, this heaviness, there's still this bright, uplifting element in the guitars. Not guitars, electronic synth. That was an interesting split too. The vocals aren't centered. I like the two guitars doing a hocket here that's creating like jumping back and forth. Alright, I'm going to pause it there because I assume we're going to do another one of those things where we get like some ocean sounds to lead us into the next track. So yeah, Ocean of the Deep was interesting. I think it was a nice way to introduce this the second part, the second movement of Hadopelagic. But honestly, why make it its own track? I think that's my big question there. I don't think this song needed two movements, especially not one movement that was only 61 seconds long that acts as an intro. Just put it in the core song, right? No different than Demersal coming up next. 9 minutes long, one track. I just didn't see the need to break that up. But yeah, so this is another song that I could see having been on the radio. A lot of this song reminded me of Tool. And a lot of it is in the rhythmic complexity of it all. Right? When we look at all the instruments, what they're doing rhythmically, and how they're playing around with time, how they're sitting in each other's pockets as far as space goes, when they're playing, when they're not playing, what instruments are playing, when other instruments are not playing, and really creating a lot of this rhythmic complexity through simplicity. Right? It's a few instruments playing smaller, simpler parts, but the way that they're all fitting into each other's parts like puzzle pieces makes it sound more complex. And that is something that I noticed Tool, when we checked out Lateralis, is really good at. And I'm seeing a lot of those strengths here as well. But what I find more engaging with this than I did with Lateralis is the occasional emphasis on melodic elements, right? We do have the vocalist who is providing melody lines occasionally, but there's also guitars that come in, there's synthesizers. I think this one actually had strings in a couple of sections, like a violin, and so we get this we get this timbre diversity as well, where different instruments can take the lead. Not to mention, we also have several sections where I forgot what I was going to say. Man, that is disappointing. Talking about melody lines, timbre, Oh, production, yeah. We have multiple sections where the production gets played around with to better facilitate this. Like when we bring in the vocal harmonies in the previous song. Wait, in the previous song it was different. You ever, do you guys ever do that? I feel like I do that all the time, where I'm just sort of on autopilot and I'm just saying things that come into my brain, sort of stream of consciousness, and I will realize it as I say it, and it's like I came to my own profound conclusion about something. The knowledge was inside of me, but I didn't know it until I said it. Very weird feeling. I'm gonna dig into the lyrics, right? My Freud idea is half out the window already. Right? I think I was grasping for straws at the end of Abyssopelagic. No, at the end of Bathyalpelagic. Abyssopelagic made no sense to me. It was very abstract going on there. So if I look at the lyrics for Let Them Believe, and I don't see anything that I can kind of attach to this, I'm chucking the idea out the window. But until then, I wonder how much of the vocal placement deals with the idea of the ego, the id, and the superego. Because Abyssopelagic, if I remember correctly, dealt with a lot of centered and left pan harmonies. And I mentioned that it worked musically because the right pan had a lead guitar in those sections. But I really wonder if we go back and look at some of this stuff, if that is prevalent even in sections where both sides have lead guitar elements, because that's something we saw a lot in the beginning of the song, was both guitars doing their own thing or harmonizing with each other, but both playing lead, especially in the first two or three tracks where we saw a lot of three-way counterpoint going on. Um, if we go back and we see this pattern emerge, what does it mean now that when we bring in a harmony, the center's removed and it's the left and right speaking? Well, actually, I guess it doesn't necessarily need to be tied into my idea of the Freudian levels of the self. It could just be something else that they have in mind for when to do this, and I'm kind of curious about that. Like I said, we have three more tracks. Well, four more tracks. Nope, three more tracks worth of lyrics to go into. The one we just listened to, and two more. And we're gonna see if any of the lyrics continue upon this. Like I said, that the idea, the Freudal idea, is kind of halfway out the window already. My idea of the music getting heavier is gone. That's out there. The water sounds, though, not really a theory. Well, I mean, it was at the beginning because I wasn't sure if I heard them or not. But now I'm hearing them everywhere. And like I said during the song, I'm going to say it now so it's very clear. If you have a source that says there's water sounds, water atmosphere in every second of this album, I want to know, because I think that would be phenomenal. It wouldn't add anything to my enjoyment of the song. I still hear it when I hear it, and usually it's covered up. But I just think it would be phenomenal to know that they have a stem in every single one of these songs that's just bubbles or running water or humming or radar pinging or whatever, in every single one of these songs, just to have it. Like I said, even though most of the time it's covered up by the drums and the guitars and all that, I think it would just be phenomenal. Just a nice little attention to detail, which, like I said, that's kind of what I associate with them. Details is, I mean, that's kind of their deal. Um, there was a film, and I don't know what it was called. It's recent. It was based off of a book. Um, I want to say Natalie Portman played lead in it. But it was a bunch of scientists that went into this bubble that had popped up, like an alien force field, and they went inside of it and they noticed that everything was what we knew, but also different. Like they saw crocodiles and trees and flowers, but they weren't our crocodiles, trees, and flowers. Like they went under mutations or something like that. And I hope that's enough to. If you know what I'm talking about, I hope that's enough. I don't want to spoil anything other than that for those who haven't seen it, but I can't remember what the movie's called. But I'm getting like flashbacks, something that I've associated with that film. This song, this album, this song specifically, I think is triggering. It's popped up a couple of times, but usually it's like a fleeting moment, and I wasn't really able to place what I was thinking of. This song really nailed it down for me, and I don't know why, but I'm getting some imagery of that here, um, and even like some of the questions showing up and the break. I mean, if we go back to these lyrics from the last section, he says, things are no longer what they seem. I can't say if it was real. Like thematically, that's some of that's applying to that film too, and just being somewhere where nothing is as it seems, everything seems normal, but also slightly abnormal in a dreamlike manner. And the film was kind of also about getting what you wanted. I don't know. I don't know. Again, I might just be because my brain's so scattered on this because the song is I mean the album is what it is. I don't think it's a very scatterbrained album. I think it's actually hyper focused despite how irregular everything is. No, not irregular. How varied everything is, right? We've gone through a lot of different styles here. But I think there's also this hyper focus on each individual element that ties it all together. It doesn't feel like a disjointed album. Uh, I don't know where I was going with that either. Sometimes stream of consciousness doesn't work. Um, but yeah, I mean it's all over the place, but it's very centered. It knows exactly what it's doing at all times, and that kind of idea relates back to sort of this film experience of being a bit chaotic, but being very um, consistent. I suppose would be a good word for it. And just like some of these lyrical ideas, now that I'm thinking about it, are tying in. But again, I could just be grasping at straws because my brain is all over the place trying to figure out what's going on here. It really is. Like when I listen to music critically, I'm approaching it as a puzzle, right? I think that's fairly clear in my observations, the way that I talk about music. I hear things and I typically zone in on specific elements, and my first thought is, what is going on here? What is the bass doing specifically? What is the drums doing specifically? What's going on in time signature specifically? I look at a single thing, what's going on here? And once I figure it out, how does this apply to the larger picture? Sometimes the larger picture is what else is going on in a section. I just looked at the bass. What's the drum doing against the bass? I just checked out the vocals. How's that working in tandem with what the drums and bass are doing? And then once I figured out a section, usually in the analysis part, because listening to the music is just kind of figuring out what each section is doing, then I look at the bigger picture. What's the section doing? How does it relate to the other sections, to the larger picture? Doing these album reactions, just taking it to the next level. What is the song doing? How is that relating to the album? And it's just this multi-layered approach of doing the same thing on different levels of the song or different levels of the album. But because each section is doing very interesting things, especially when we start looking at uh, meter, which the time signatures are all over the place in some songs, um, and harmony versus texture. right? There is some inconsistency with the different sections throughout the album. There's some inconsistencies with the feeling of each song across the album. But then there's also the theme of the album, and there's consistency there. So, like I said, there's inconsistency on the musical level, there's consistency on the art level, and the same attributes are contributing to both the inconsistency and the consistency of it. So my brain is being scattered. It's like the same thing means two different things. Let's just search for any correlation we have. And I think that's why I'm like reaching out to these weird things. But I'm also seeing some interesting ideas forming through here as well. So if we move on, Omen of the Deep had no lyrics. Yep. And Let Them Believe. Oh, wow. So Abyssopelagic had like five whole stanzas across its entire thing, and this one has quite a few more. So says I can feel circles always touch in more than one point. Repelled and pulled towards each other, repelled again. Unconditional projection alternates with short, fervid intervals of perfection and boundless bonding. What did I just read? Okay, so things are getting more abstract as we continue on this journey, which oddly enough is exactly what happened in that film. But to be sure, trust needs to be reevaluated while our aging promises turn to plight and their weight and meaning change, differing sides of intersections, territories abandoned, lost, and reclaimed. Everything's in constant motion. There is no way. Why are there so many similarities here? Even weirder is I didn't pick up any lyrics on this song. So why did the music make me think of this movie when the first two stanzas are already like perfectly in line with some of the stuff? And you know what's weird too? Let me get through the rest of these lyrics. All right, cuz my mind's getting blown right here. Let them live with the contradictions between what they call passion and the constraints of modern living, which leaves no space for the irrational. Interesting. See, and here's the other thing too is like this kind of defies both of my ideas of literally going into the water unless he unless this took like a supernatural turn and we have approached something a bit more powerful when we've arrived home in this section. Uh, but it there's this what is this? Let them have confidence and peace. Let them be powerless. I'm assuming they're talking about humanity because that's kind of what I felt. Quite a bit of this album has been about. Um, Says, but most surprisingly, they're not afraid of how they'll feel when they come closer to the water. All these restrictions are self inflicted. Let them be helpless. Let them earn symbols of commitment to compensate for the lack of it. So we don't actually have commitment, we have symbols of commitment, which, I mean, again, just really abstracting the language here. We repeat the opening idea about circles touching in more than one point, repelling and pulling against each other. Um, Change is what scares us. I mean, and then a repetition of this idea of most importantly, let them be confident, and peace, let them be powerless. It says symbols of commitment to disguise a lack of it. Another repetition, a slight variation on this idea. Let them believe in themselves and let them live with their contradictions. What they call passion is turmoil caused by repression of their ambitions. So let them believe. And the weird thing is, like, a lot of these ideas about not knowing your true self and believing a facade that you've created because of outside forces. I mean, that's a big theme in that film. And God, what? And something else too interesting here, because we talk about several times about having things that we want, right? We want confidence, we want peace, um, even if they're spoken about in more of a negative aspect, right? Things that we want. Well, guess what? This idea of what we want has come up several times in this album, and I can't avoid it any longer, especially with this. What I see is this pulling towards this film is that this film was actually based off of um, another film. Well, the film was based off of a book, and the book was based off of a film, if I remember correctly. Um, and the film I remember because the film hit me real hard when I watched it, and it's called Stalker, and it's about some men who go exploring um, to find something that will grant their wishes, if I remember right. It's been a long time since I've seen it. Um, and they all wish for what they think they want. Or no, man, what is it? There was some twist that happened at the end, and whatever it was, though, it was like a monkey paw situation where they didn't get what they wanted, or maybe they ended up not wishing for anything at all because they were afraid they would get what they didn't want. I don't know. It was this psychological dilemma, though, right, about actually making these wishes. Um, and some of the themes were utilized for this other film that this thing's reminding me of, and just this idea of, I mean, there's this through line in a lot of these lyrics about not knowing yourself. And I'm still kind of lost on the overarching idea that's sitting between all of these lyrics. And more importantly, I suppose, how they fit into the musical storytelling. Because honestly, I thought I had an understanding of the musical storytelling and it's gone. I thought it was going to be about plunging into depths. And nope, not really. Not on a weight level, not on a tempo level, not on a impact or intensity level. Just the music. It seems we hit a point where we definitely hit the heaviest section, and then we started going in the inverse and lightening up more and more. This was definitely more of a heavier track, kind of going back to that prog metal, new metal kind of vibe, that Tool kind of style that we saw earlier. I don't remember what song that was, but I mean, not going as heavy as I thought, especially given the ocean, right? To me, they're post metal. They know how to do weight and um, impact very well about how to create a song that feels like it has crushing weight to it. And they really haven't done that yet. Like, it feels like they're purposefully avoiding their expertise or what they're known for. Um, so, you know, musically, I don't see a story here. Each song, I think, kind of fits with what it's talking about to an extent. But as a whole, I'm not seeing the picture on the album side, but lyrically, there is a strong line running through here about knowing oneself and the constraints that humans live within in order to be a part of society and how they might contradict and hide the true nature of humanity. And every song seems to be about this, as well as the idea of wanting more than this reality, right? Not necessarily, wanting materialistic things, but having urges that cannot be expressed, and that might be the true self. And sometimes there's got to be something because what was that song about the dream? Boundless Vasts? Nope. Signals of Anxiety. There we go. He saw her, and again, we have a pronoun with no direction for it. I don't know why I didn't catch that last time. He saw somebody walking towards the sea. She said, "You'll understand later." She cast a stone into the foam. While something occurred to her, something broke in her. So there's definitely this idea of perceiving something that gives us an answer that would possibly, he says broke in her, right? Literally broke. But it would be this something that would tear apart our understanding of reality. And for a lot of us, our understanding of reality is society. We don't live in a dog eat dog, everybody on their own hunter-gatherer style system anymore. Our reality is the laws around us. That's one of our big governing natures, is working within societal rules, whether that's a law or that's a what do they call those? Like a social expectation. And it could be this understanding, tying back to an id possibly, these baser instincts are who we really are. And everything else we put up is a facade. AKA the superego is fake and was created for society, and thus our ego is full of false intentions, disguised to fit into a society that we were not built for, because our true nature is what our id suggests. Again, I feel like I'm really, really pulling at straws here with this interpretation, but it's the only thing that I really think that fits all of the lyrics as a whole, and we have reached a large amount of lyrics. Bring me back Agalloch, where we had a bunch of instrumentals. Easier to make sense of 15 stanzas than 50. Alright, I guess we're gonna finish this up then. We've got Demersal, which is 9 minutes, and then Benthic, which is 6, and that's going to wrap this up. I'm going to play both back to back, unless there's a hard cut in there, because 9 minutes is a lot of music. Maybe I'll have something to talk about there. That was odd. Yep, let's get into this. We got 15 seconds left on this outro intro, and we'll be moving into Demersal. Tons of reverb there, lots of space, which would make sense how close to the floor we are thematically. And that delay / reverb / syncopated guitar work is just adding into this element of having a ton of space around us. And this song's called Cognitive Dissonance, which kind of lines up with that idea I was just talking about. Once again, our harmonies are center and left. I love that piano that's just providing a little bit of levity against this heaviness, this weight. the cognitive dissonance idea, I think, is shining through the music as well, with this piano existing against the metal. And we've moved to the left and right split vocals. Yeah, this is more of what I expect from Ocean. Very odd 4/4, really pushing against it. Dude, those low notes on that bass were so fat. It's also interesting to hear them ramp up that energy and then just back off so quickly. We got that squealing on the right side too. Oh man, that almost sounds like a radar. I wonder if they were aiming for that sound or not. Because I'm pretty sure that's a guitar. I think that was another new vocal delivery, more like a growl, very quick on the right side. In another time I want to kind of say, oh, you know, we're in Doom now, but it's too bright. I can't call this sound Doom. There's a high-pitched ringing on the left side. I'm coming around to the idea that the first part of each title, the water level, is the literal definition of the depth, while the second name of each title, the one that comes after the colon, is more related to the mental one. This one called Cognitive Dissonance, Signals of Anxiety, Let Them Believe, The Wish and Dreams. Yeah. And this one's called The Origin of Our Wishes. Okay. Very sparse, very heavy. Wow. Dude, it is quickly getting quite unhinged in these vocal deliveries. Even the yeah, this is gorgeous. I love how everything's breaking down. That bass tone is just getting so fat. We finish that with water. All right. So we hit more doom, and then we hit sludge. Is that sludge? I don't think we've actually had proper sludge on the channel yet, so I don't have anything to relate it to, but I've heard that sludge is just exactly as the name suggests. It's heavy, it's thick, it's viscous, it's just slow metal, I think. I might be confusing that with stoner metal, because now I'm thinking stoner metal is the slow one and sludge is a textural one. I don't remember. Whatever, though, we hit a new genre there, a new weight, a new heaviness, and I think that makes perfect sense for putting it on the ocean floor. So there is. Am I right in my theory? I think they kind of swayed a little bit with the Abyssopelagic, where they went more for an emotional element rather than a physical feeling of the layer. Hadopelagic was it kind of it kind of brought us back, but it was also more chill. It was more of the that Tool stuff. Demersal and Benthic though, or and Benthic, the last two tracks really brought about the heaviness and the weight that I would expect from these two sections of the ocean though. So it seems to obey this idea. In the first three songs obey it. The next two don't, and then the final two do. So I kind of want to say that works on a musical level. I'm not 100% sure though. Um, Water sounds though, again, I gotta ask for that, right? I swear every time that the song cut out or that there was just enough gap in the instruments, I could hear water stuff. Whether it's, at the beginning with the waves crashing or the creek, or, just the muffledness that we saw early on too, and then just bubbles, right? That we were hearing near the end. There's also like radar pinging elements, which is not water related, but I mean, it's how submarines navigate. So maybe it's kind of watery ish, water themed. And there's even one part in Demersal, I think it was, where there was a guitar squeal that sounded like it was emulating a radar ping, which is pretty cool. I'm not sure if they did that intentionally or if it was just something that came up. They just wanted this squealing sound, and they did it. It just happens to sound like a pinging. Um, but yeah, like there's definitely an ocean element here, which is just so cool because they are the ocean, right? Um, but let's see theories though. Because I don't. Well, let me talk a little bit about the music, I guess. Um, that sludge sound, I think it works great. They executed it well, and I loved how even when I felt like they couldn't get any slower, they found a way. And they just constantly decreased that tempo until it was just the song just was not moving anymore. The song just felt like it was such a slow pace. And I can imagine that that's what it would feel like for a human to be down there and to have that water pressure. Actually, I'm pretty sure it'd be worse than that because I don't think humans can exist down there. I'm pretty sure they'd get crushed from the water pressure. But yeah, just that like exponential amount of weight that that section of the ocean just kind of implies. Not even just that though, but also just the pure darkness of it, right? If was it Abyssopelagic was where we began to hit pitch blackness, and this was several thousands of meters and feet below that. I mean, if the abyss is a black void, what's beyond that? That's a good question. That honestly, now that I say about it, lines up with the metaphor of everything they're exploring here as well. Um, the water sounds are present. The genre's getting heavier. I'm not sure. Like, I think it works what they did. It might not work perfectly with this linear progression, but I do like how they went about doing this, and I think the final two tracks are beautiful send-offs for this album, adhering to that theme. I also noticed as we went on, the odd time signatures got less and less and less frequent to the point where they just pretty much weren't there. We hit 3/4 once, I think, in Demersal, and there's a 6/8 feel somewhere in it for a brief moment. Benthic went back to 4/4. Hadopelagic was mostly in 4/4. All of the funky stuff that we saw, especially earlier on with Mesopelagic and Bathyalpelagic, were gone. Like, we had our moment of chaotic elements, which I kind of assume works well. You've gone below the surface of the water. Most people would find that disorienting, but after you've made the decision to dive down to the abyss, it's not really chaotic anymore. You've made this decision. You know what you're doing by now. So the chaotic time signatures made sense to be left behind as you go into this new area. But the deeper we get, the more unfamiliar things become. And I think it's really interesting to hear how many more eclectic ideas get put into the music, right? A lot of the bright melodic elements, the counterpoint, they're missing once we hit the abyss and we begin to hear an album that is more focused on textural elements and creating very, I don't want to say odd or foreign, but definitely less musical, right? Music is not the main thing, especially when we hit Benthic, right? I think it's the opening to Benthic, might have been the opening to Demersal. The two songs are kind of blurring together a little for me. Um, but we had these just chromatic, I would say, guitar lines that were being harmonized with a bass that was just kind of doing whatever it wanted, and like just creating all these chaotic ideas. The drums were very quickly becoming to a point where they were emphasizing odd rhythmic ideas instead of every downbeat. They would just randomly put in like what would be grace notes. I don't know if drummers call them grace notes or not, but um, just really emphasizing sixteenths of a note before a beat, or what would that be like? A quarter? Yeah, a quarter of a beat before the beat, and just like including all these really weird subdivisions and making the rhythm feel foreign. The guitarist, like I said, were moving into chromatic elements. The harsh vocals were becoming harmonized, so we had this layering up of the compression that was making it sound more staticky while also having that layering as well. We also introduced some really low growls in there, which were making things sound very distorted. Um, there's just a lot of elements in the musical ideas that were becoming more and more foreign, so far divorced from that beautiful, laid back, chill, very musical atmosphere we saw in Epipelagic. Um, can we talk about that bass though? Okay, so the bass was present in a lot of this song. I really enjoyed the bass lines they gave it. Sometimes it lined up with what the guitars were doing and they were harmonizing on these really slick licks. And other times it was just bringing its own bass line to the table, taking lead, right? And the bass was always given some spotlight, no matter what song it was. But I feel like in the last four tracks, it was given more and more width and power. Maybe they were increasing the drive on it. Maybe it was a production thing. I don't know. By the end of the song, though, it felt like this just beacon of a tone. And it just took up so much space. It was such a heavy presence. I'm not sure if that production, if the mix on it was the same throughout the entire album, but it felt so much different, so much heavier near the end than sort of that lighter, jazzier bass sound that we had in Epipelagic. So it's really cool again how the bass seems to be influenced from this dive into the depths of the song as well. I guess we're gonna dive into the lyrics and look at these last two ideas before we finish this up and see where that takes us. Bum, 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 bum. All right, cognitive dissonance. This was an interesting track title, and this was where we began to see. Oh, another element of the album breaking down was that the piano was always utilized to buttress other melodic elements to provide levity and beauty within the other melodies, right? To either provide counter melody to them or to harmonize with them, right? Them and the harp was utilized. It was one of the first, I think the piano and the harp are the first two instruments we heard in the first track. And it really introduced this idea of beauty that has been so warped by the time we get to this part where we have all this weight and dissonance and chaos, and then this piano just playing these beautiful riffs that, for all I know, are the same riffs from Epipelagic. Um, and playing them against this destructive sound, though. So that was interesting. I think that played well into the idea of cognitive dissonance. But let's see what these lyrics are. Oh, it seems like it's talking about something destructive. Not like I just used that word. There was an earthquake, the sun turned black, the moon became blood, became like blood. Stars of the sky fell to the earth. Okay, so there is a bit of an apocalyptic. The moon becoming blood is extremely apocalyptic. The moon becoming like blood just means it turned red. But then the stars fell from the sky, and that is a problem. A fig tree cast its unripe figs. What does that mean? Like, is there something sinister about an unripe fig? Like a fruit that isn't bloomed yet? Is are there any like fairy tales that I don't know of? Maybe this is a German band, right? Yeah, maybe there's a cultural thing in Germany about specifically unripe figs. I don't know. That seems earthquakes. The sun blacked out. The moon became red like blood. Stars from the sky. Stars fell from the sky. The fig tree put its unbloomed figs on the ground. Like that seems to be the worst of my problems at this point. But and to me it just seems it's comical because it's such 10, 10, 10, and then in my eyes like one, but maybe there's a cultural thing about it. It says the fig tree cast its unripe figs when shaken by a mighty wind, and the sky was split apart like a scroll when it's rolled up. I mean, maybe it's just used for the metaphor, right? We wanted to know how bad the wind had gotten, but to me at least, fig trees are not super well known. I wouldn't say it's, if you ask me, a fruit bearing tree that we can use, that we need to showcase it being ripped from the ground so that we can explain how mighty these winds are, figs are not going to be the first thing I think of. To me, it seems very specific. Let's see. And every mountain and island were moved out of their places, and the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the strong, and every free man hid themselves in caves. And they said to the mountain, fall down on us and hide us from the presence of Him, capital H, who sits on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb, capital L. For the great day of His wrath has come. Hide us from the presence of Him. Now, immediately, it's probably because I am a Westerner who grew up in a very religious area. Capitalized Him, capitalized Lamb immediately makes me think of the Judeo-Christian God. And it's interesting to bring that into play when it really, the album has not really alluded to anything religious, I would say. Unless this is to talk about, again, what was the the last one. Let them believe, right? Let them believe. And we were talking about, oh, so this might be the greater, because I was talking about we were going down into the depths and we may have found a greater being who is speaking about humanity in, larger ideas, stuff we weren't aware of, how we were allowing ourselves to be powerless but confident, and stuff like that. And I took it as like a cosmic being, right? Some Cthulhu kind of stuff, um, especially with the idea of the depths of the water. But immediately after that, we talk about some people who are afraid of natural disasters and run into a mountain calling for the Christian God's help. Makes me wonder if the previous song wasn't from his perspective. But then when we finish it up on Origin of Our Wishes, we are now on the threshold. Hold your breath, close your eyes. This is what you have been hoping and waiting for your whole life. Enter the room. Again, entering the room and hoping for what you've been waiting for your life is like the final scenes of Stalker. Don't have any illusions. I will not forgive you. And the worst thing is that you won't ever forgive yourself. Enter the room. There's no one here. No one can harm them here. Oh, God. That's what it was in Stalker. That's what it was. When you made your wish, you could wish for whatever you wanted, I think verbally, but the item would give you whatever you wished for mentally, even if it's a hidden desire. I think that's what it was. And again, playing into this idea that I've been talking about with these lyrics about not knowing your true self, about having wants and desires that may not be exactly what you believe are your wants and desires, what you would vocalize or publicly present. You do not know who you are or what you want. Going back to um, Disequilibrated? I can't pronounce that word. Nope, that's not the one. It must have been, the Wish and Dreams. Asking how much control do we have over what we wished for. I don't know why that didn't immediately make me think of Stalker, probably because it's been so long since I've watched it. Had to get there through another film, okay? Sometimes the brain don't work great like that. How many decisions we take are rational, how much is intentional? So, I mean, it does kind of tie into a little bit of the Freud thing of the id, but I think the Freud thing I can just chuck right out the window. And kind of just dig into that a lot of this seems to be based on the Stalker film. Um, what is that? Annihilation. That's what the film is. Yeah, by Alex Garland. Annihilation was based off of a novel. Oh wait, I said that. And that novel, I'm pretty sure the novel was based off of Stalker. I don't know if Stalker was based off of anything though. But yeah, like a lot of this is coming together now. And I think it's interesting that they took the idea and ran it in a different direction. Because like Stalker and Annihilation both have the idea of the journey to get to the true self, right? And then the true self is also it's an inversion of, it's not an invert, it's more like I'm trying I don't want to give it away. Like I highly suggest you watch both of these. Annihilation is phenomenal. Stalkers, I recommend both of them. I really do. Right? I'll just leave it at that. Like I said, I don't want to ruin either one because both of them, I think the endings are so important. Um, but yeah, this album, Pelagial, they're both the two movies are about journeys to achieve something, and discovering that the something is related to your true self, your true nature, and not realizing that that was the journey you were on the entire way. And I kind of feel like a lot of that is being put here, where the journey is to the depths of the water. But I also feel like that the inspiration from these films, or possibly only just Stalker, is only half of the equation here. There's something else going on that I think is kind of going over my head. There's a lot of elements of not knowing what is real, not knowing if we're in a dream, and being restricted or constrained by invisible ropes, invisible forces. And like some of that definitely ties into the elements of not knowing your true self, but some of it also seems to allude to a different theme that they're wanting to speak on here, especially when we introduce the ideas here, because a lot of this song I feel like takes place in present time, and that's probably just because there is a timelessness to it. It doesn't strictly speak about anything in particular, but we come up to Demersal, and we talk about kings and great men and free men running to the mountains and praying to a god. And while we would probably see a lot of people praying to deities here if the entire world were ever to completely attack humanity in a concentrated attack of earthquakes and sun explosions and blood moons and fig trees throwing their figs everywhere. I don't know that we would talk too much about kings and great men also fleeing for caves and mountains rather than bunkers, especially since the kings and the great men would know that this stuff was coming and would be building this stuff beforehand, even if they didn't tell us mere peasants about this impending doom. So it makes me think that it's a much earlier time. It reminds me more of cavemen, or pretty much anything before the industrial era, I suppose. That's really the time period I'm getting here. I mean, the kings definitely allude to more medieval kingdom, or medieval England, but still, I mean, it puts me in a completely different mindset given these characters that they've introduced. But then we also have a lot of these elements of a larger being, a more powerful being, coming in. And even this final track here, Benthic, seems to be speaking to humanity as a higher power. So it brings about this supernatural element to the story, which I guess fits given both Stalker and Annihilation, but it's not where I thought this was going. I thought this was going to be more of a mental journey, and they've introduced a supernatural sci-fi element to it, which is just really interesting. But I'm curious about the ending here. It says you won't forgive yourself for this, for making this wish, I suppose, entering this room. It's what you've been hoping for and waiting for your entire life. Um, it says there's no one here, no one that can harm them here. Another pronoun with I really hate how we continue to use all these yous, hims, hers, them, and never depicting who they are. Occasionally, I get the idea we're talking about humanity as a whole, and possibly that's what we're talking about here, but I'm not really seeing it. And then after that, it just says, oh God, dot, 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 like something horrible has happened. Maybe the person did enter the room, and we don't know what happened when they did. All right. So, yeah, just a really interesting album overall. I can't say that there's minor connections between the music and the lyrics, right? I'm going to say that the musical storytelling and the lyrical storytelling are divorced from each other. For the most part, there are some tie-overs, some little elements that keep it all feeling synergistic, but for the most part, they seem to have been done completely separate from each other. Um, which, as I've said a couple times this week, it's fine. Concept albums, I tend to kind of put a little bit more import on having that strong thematic synergy. But I mean, like I've mentioned, it is really difficult to kind of be good at one style of music, which most bands are. They kind of can sit around their main style. I don't expect these guys to go out and make an electronic or a country album or a hip hop album. You know, most people do what they do very well and have difficulty really stepping outside of that. And while they do have a few different rock or metal styles in here, it's all still rock or metal. So, in order to create perfect synergy between your lyrical themes and your musical themes for every single thing you write, it's just impossible. It's not going to be feasible. So I don't always expect it. However, like I said, when it comes to concept albums, I tend to expect it a little bit more, but I think this was fine. I enjoyed it on a musical level, I enjoyed it on a lyrical level, and I want to dive into it again. Not much different from Stalker or Annihilation. This is where you guys come in if you're still here. 150 minutes later. Thank you. I don't know how many people are actually going to watch any of these album requests or album reactions all the way through. The chapters help, and I will continue to include chapters in these, but this is just a lot of video to sit through. So if you're here, thank you so much. If you're not here, I perfectly understand. I really do. Those are my thoughts on Pelagial from the Ocean / the Ocean Collective. Maybe just the Ocean at this time. I know they changed their name at one point. I don't know which side this album fits on. Let me know in the comments what you thought. Let me know if you thought I was close on any of that. There's a couple of things I'm fairly sure I'm accurate on. Other things I feel like I'm stretching on, and some things that I dismissed halfway through the reaction. And if you have answers to any of it, let me know, right? Because, like I said, I'm curious. I'm probably going to give this another listen to just because there's so much going on here that there's just no way I could have picked it up on a first time. And I have a lot of questions left over. So hit me up in the comments. You guys know the usual stuff. If you're here this long, you're probably usuals on the channel. But just for the sake of doing the thing, hit the Linktree link in the description. You'll go to this menu. There's buttons for everything related to the channel. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. That's it for today. We got a live stream for the patrons tomorrow. On Monday, we're going to start Colors Week. Until next time, remember to be critical but not cynical of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos. Come on, man.